This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game features some of the coolest people I know, with Max, MJ, and Nick returning. Max and MJ have decided to bring their Warhammer 40,000 decks, with Max playing the Swarmlord, unchanged Precon. He keeps Biophagous, Aberrant, Soul Ring, Mountain, Forest, Tyrant Guard, and Zoanthrope. MJ is playing their Bel'Akor deck, keeping Talisman of Indulgence, Chaos Defiler, 3 Mountains, and a Talisman of Dominance. Nick is playing his Yowie Hands Alrund God of the Cosmos deck, and all he wants to do is draw cards. He keeps Teferi's Ageless Insight, Min Wily Illusionist, Distortion Strike, and 4 Islands. I am playing my newly made Kathril Aspect Warper deck, and I want to fill up my graveyard. I keep a Sunpetal Grove, Crawling Infestation, Godless Shrine, Wayfarer's Bauble, Llanowar Elves, Bloodstained Mire, and an Isolated Chapel. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and play a Bloodstained Mire, cracking it and losing 1 to find a shock. I then play out a Llanowar Elves and pass. Nick draws and plays an island. Max plays a forest and taps it for 1 to cast a Soul Ring. MJ just plays a mountain. I've got an Isolated Chapel for turn, and then play and sacrifice a Wayfarer's Bauble to find another basic. Nick plays an island, and then plays Haka, the backside of Alrund. He passes after that. Max plays a Cave of Temptation, and then pays 2 mana for a Biophagous. MJ plays an island and taps 2 for their own mana rock with a Talisman of Indulgence. I have a Sunpetal Grove for turn. I then cast a Winding Way and pick land. I get to bin a Birds of Paradise and a Fiend Artisan and put only 1 land to hand. I follow up with a Crawling Infestation and pass to Nick. Nick plays an island and pays 3 mana for Min and passes. Max draws and plays a mountain. He's got enough at this point for the Swarmlord, and it comes in with 3 +1/+1 counters from the Biophagous and its own ability. He passes after that. MJ's got a mountain and plays another Talisman with a Talisman of Dominance and passes. I mill 2 for my Crawling Infestation trigger and then draw for turn. I play a Shine Shadow Snarl, revealing one of the relevant land types in my hand, so it comes in untapped, and I pass. Nick plays an island and casts Wizard Class, and then levels it up, drawing 2, and this triggers Min, making him an illusion token. He passes after that. Max has an Opal Palace for turn, and goes straight to combat. He swings the Swarmlord at me, who I chump with the Llanowar Elves. After that, Max plays an Aberrant and passes. MJ's got an island for turn, and is then able to cast Bel'Akor, losing 1 and drawing 1. They then pass, and during their end step, I cast Entomb, putting to graveyards to Talpa before moving to my turn. I mill 2 and then draw for turn. I play a Godless Shrine untapped, taking 2, and follow up with Kathril. My commander enters, getting a Flying, Double Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible counter, as well as 5 +1/+1 counters. After that, I pass to Nick. Nick draws and goes to combat, swinging Haka at Max and then returns it to his hand. He then plays a Slip Through and targets Bel'Akor to draw a card, and finally hits a land. He plays it and casts a Soul Ring, and then plays Alrund on the front side this time. Moving to his end step, Nick names Instance with Alrund, revealing Engulf the Shore and puts it to hand and passes. Max plays an island and goes to combat. He swings the Swarmlord at MJ, who takes the hit for 8, and Max passes after that. MJ's got an Underground Sea for turn. and then plays out a Venom Crawler, dealing 2 to Min's illusion. With it dying, Nick gets to put a Swiftfoot Boots into play from the trigger, and MJ also gets to put a counter onto the Venom Crawler. With nothing else, MJ passes. I mill my 2 and draw. I then cast Filth and go to combat, swinging Kathril at Nick and dealing 16 commander damage. After the hit, I pass turn. Nick draws and wants to draw some more, casting Flow of Ideas to draw 5 and making another illusion token with Min. Nick then moves to combat, but Max flashes in a Ravener, and this forces Alrund to attack me. I block with Kathril to kill it, and in his post-combat main phase, Nick just plays an island and passes. Max draws and plays Frontier Bivouac. He plays out an old One-Eye and then goes to combat. He swings it all at me, and I block the Aberrant but take the rest. After that, Max passes. MJ's got an island for turn and casts a Chaos Defiler, choosing Crawling Infestation, Swiftfoot Boots, and Old One-Eye. The random roll then kills Old One-Eye, and MJ moves to combat. They swing the Venom Crawler at Max to gain some life, and Max takes the hit. With that, MJ passes. I mill my 2 and draw for turn. I play a Command Tower and go to combat. This time around I swing Kathril at Max, and he takes the hit for 16. After that, I play a Sunblade Angel and pass my turn. During my end step, Nick uses Reality Shift and targets Kathril, exiling it, and I manifest my top card. Nick plays a Rogue's Passage for turn, and then recasts Alrund, but this time as Haka. He then foretells a card and passes. Max draws and plays Temple of Epiphany, scrying 1. Going to combat, Max swings the Swarmlord and the Ravener at MJ. MJ chumps the Swarmlord with the Chaos Defiler, but takes the rest. The Defiler triggers again as it dies, and MJ chooses my Manifest, the Swiftfoot Boots, and the Biophagus. We randomly roll, and once more, Max's permanent gets blown up again, and the Biophagus bites the dust. Max then plays a Zoanthrope, putting 6 into the X, and deals 6 directly to me. He passes after that. MJ's got a Mountain for turn, and moving to combat, swings the Venom Crawler at Nick, who chumps with an illusion token. After gaining some life, MJ then plays an Aspiring Champion, and passes. I mill my 2 and draw. I go straight to combat and swing my Sunblade Angel at Max, which he blocks, but I gain 3. I then recast Kathril, which picks up First Strike and Lifelink in addition to its old keywords this time, and gains 7 +1/+1 counters this time around, and I pass after that. Nick plays an island and goes to combat, swinging his Commander Bird at MJ for 2, who takes the hit. Nick then bounces Haka to his hand and recasts Alrund again. Once his commander's out, he casts Gadwick, putting 2 into the X and drawing 2. Nick then passes, and during his end step, names creatures off the Alrund trigger and reveals Cosima off the top and puts it to his hand. Max draws and plays a mountain. He plays out Death's Presence, as well as a Tyrant Guard, and passes. MJ's got a Bloodstained Mire for turn, and then plays the Great Unclean One, dealing the damage from the Bel'Akor trigger to the Tyrant Guard. Going to combat, they swing the Aspiring Champion at Nick. Nick agrees to block as long as whatever comes in doesn't go at him. With the champion on death trigger, MJ reveals until they hit a species specialist, and they name Demon as it comes in. MJ then moves to their end step, and we each lose 2, while MJ makes 3 Plaguebearers of Nurgle. Meanwhile, Nick tries to keep his energy levels high by consuming some Reese's Pieces. I mill my 2 and draw. I go to combat and swing Kathril at MJ this time, who chumps some of it with Bel'Akor, but still takes 15 total. After combat, I play Life's Legacy, sacrificing Kathril to draw a big chunk of cards. This has me playing a polluted Delta, and then Varric warps Sengir. I sacrifice the Delta and copy the ability with Varric, losing 1 more life, to get 2 lands. I follow that up with a Skull Prophet and pass. Nick casts a Distortion Strike on Alrund, tapping the Venom Crawler thanks to Gadwick. Moving to combat, he swings Alrund at me for 11, which I have to take. Nick then follows up with Teferi's Ageless Insight, and taps the Great Unclean One with Gadwick, and then moves to his end step. He names creatures off of Alrund, and reveals a Muldrifter to put to hand. Max draws, and replays the old One Eye, making another Tyrannid token as it comes in. Moving to combat, he swings the Zoanthrope at MJ and the Swarmlord at me. I block with Varric to trade since it has Death Touch, and MJ takes the hit. Max then plays the Red Terror, while MJ sacrifices their Bloodstained Mire, losing 1, to go and find a volcanic island. MJ draws and plays a Swamp. They cast Kindred Dominance, naming Demon, and Nick responds by casting Depart the Realms to save Alrund, and taps the Venom Crawler thanks to Gadwick's trigger. Our board then gets wiped except for MJ's demons, and they go to combat. They swing the Great Unclean One at Nick, and the Plague Bearers at me. Nick and I both take the hits, and on MJ's M step, while MJ makes 3 more Plague Bearers of Nurgle. I mill my 2 and draw. Nick saves some time by casting Fact or Fiction and picks Max. I then cast a Nighthawk Scavenger and Sakura Tribe Elder. And Max decides to give Nick a generous 5 and 0 split, with Nick taking the 5. After that, I pass. Nick casts Distortion Stripe off the rebound and targets a random creature since it doesn't really matter because Alrund isn't out. He then draws and plays Alrund. He then equips his commander with the boots, and then evokes a Muldrifter, drawing 4 as it enters thanks to Teferi's Ageless Insight. Moving to combat, he swings Alrund at MJ and activates the Rogue's Passage to give it unblockable. This has MJ taking a lethal 16 points of damage, and after that, Nick plays an island. He then casts Raven Form and takes out my Nighthawk Scavenger. After that, Nick names creature once more off of Alrund, but whiffs, and passes to Max. Max draws and plays a Malanthrope, exiling my graveyard and putting 14 +1/+1 counters onto the creature. He then recasts the Swarmlord, and I sacrifice my Sakura Tribe Elder before we move to my turn. I mill 2 and draw. I play a Swamp and then cast Unmarked Grave, putting a Vampire Nighthawk into my graveyard. I then recast Kathril, who enters and gets a Flying, Lifelink, Vigilance, Indestructible, Death Touch, and Menace counter, plus that many +1/+1 counters. With nothing else, I pass. Nick draws, and activates Rogue's Passage on Alrund. He then swings it at Max for another lethal attack, and once he's done, casts Deep Analysis, drawing 4. After that, he casts Thassa, and passes. I mill my 2 and draw for turn. I then cast a Contractual Safeguard, putting a shield counter onto Kathril and the rest of my team. Going to combat, I swing Kathril at Nick, and he responds by casting Engulf the Shore and bounces my board. With enough mana to recast Alrund, not to mention having the boots to give it haste and unblockable on his turn, I know when I'm beat and scoop it up. Game review time. Nick's Alrund deck is brutal. I think it's got his highest win percentage on the channel, and it's really cool because all he wants to do is draw cards. He doesn't run a ton of counterspells, and the few he does are pretty much on theme. This just makes for fun gameplay, and oftentimes him swinging the giant commander to bash face. I'm surprised with how Max was able to dish out as much damage as he was, and have as much interaction as he did. It just goes to show the 40k Precons were really well done, and speaking of the 40k Precons, MJ's Bel'Akor upgraded deck unfortunately didn't perform as well as it has in the past. They were still able to get some decent value, and showcase a couple new cards like the Great Unclean One, but outside of that, didn't do a whole heck of a lot outside of the Kindred Dominance. I'm not too sure if Kathril is here to stay. I think a lot of people would rather me play Merkul, and I do enjoy enchantments and tokens, so that might be what I shift to in the future. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., multi-zone, original magic art, and altar sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.